I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 169. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Chardello, coming to you on Tuesday, September 17th. And we've got an idle week. No Tech State football this week, no press conferences, no anything. We're all just taking a nice little break, waiting for Sam Houston State. But that doesn't mean we don't have anything to talk about. Lots happening in the college football landscape per usual. Realignment. We saw the Pac-12 make an announcement. Are the Bobcats next in a Pac-12 announcement? We'll talk about that. We'll unpack that. We'll figure out what's happening. We'll try and read the tea leaves in the college football landscape. But then after that, we have a great interview with Mike Barker of College Football Campus Tours. Some of you have seen him online. Lots of great content. He goes around to lots of stadiums around the country, posts good content, obstructed view content, with seats that you could buy that are blocked by a scoreboard or something. He points those out. He does a lot of cool stuff. And he was at the game on Thursday for the Bobcats. I mentioned on the last episode I ran into him. Well, we have him on this episode, giving us his report of UFCU Stadium. You're gonna like it. I know that you're gonna like it. He has a good report. I won't step on any of the toes, but we do bring up the obstructed view conversation. So you'll get to that one. But before we get to any of that, this episode is brought to you by First Lockhart National Bank. As the largest financial institution headquartered in Caldwell County, First Lockhart National Bank expanded to San Marcos in 2018 and opened a state-of-the-art branch on Hunter Road in 2020. For the past 6 years, FLNB has provided a wide range of financial services that have significantly improved the quality of life for the San Marcos community and beyond. Whether you need personal or business checking accounts, business loans, or home mortgages, they've got you covered. Plus, they offer innovative services like video banking, business banking, and a top-of-the-line mobile banking app. FLNB is also a huge supporter of Tech State football, standing out as one of the largest initial investors in NIL deals for Bobcats players. Be sure to follow them on X, Twitter, at First Lockhart, and on Instagram, at First Lockhart. Shout out to my guy, Gil Hodges, Senior Vice President at FLNB in MLS number 2475765, a proud Tech State grad and a diehard fan. We are thrilled to be partnering with Gil and FLNB all season long. You can find them at 2507 Hunter Road. That's 2507 Hunter Road, or give them a call at 512-504-7422. Again, that's 504-7422. First Lockhart National Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions may vary. Hey, Bobcat Nation. Looking for your next real estate move? McNabb and Company Real Estate Services has been proudly Bobcat owned and operated for over 15 years. They're your go-to team for buying, selling, investing, and managing properties and everything in between. Whether you're a fan or an alum, they've got the local expertise and full service support you need. Call them today at 512-667-9129. That's 512-667-9129, or visit them at mcnabbandco.com. That's MCNABB, mcnabbandco.com. McNabb and Company, where Bobcats find their home. Give them a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and X at McNabb and Co. That's MCNABB, McNabb and Co. Shout out to Monica over there at McNabb, a day one Bobcat supporter. Now she's supporting us through this season. Can't thank Monica enough for partnering with us. Check them out again, McNabb and Co. MCNABB, mcnabbandco.com. We are also brought to you by TGC LLC, our old friends at thegalindocollective.com. That's GALINDO, galindocollective.com, a team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people planning and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC and on Instagram and Facebook at The Galindo Collective. Shout out to my guy, Rick Galindo, a true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad. He's been with us since last season, with us through this season again. We're even doing great ticket giveaways for all the home games for the Bobcats, thanks to TGC. Can't thank them enough. Hit them up for all your needs at thegalindocollective.com. That's Galindo, Galindo Collective. All right, one more for our guys at Chilsea. Shout out to Chilsea. Custom tumblers. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. You can see me holding up a Win Now or Get Bent tumbler. If you order 6 or more of these custom tumblers, any logo you want to put on there, and you punch in Bobcats at the checkout, these bad boys are only $6 a piece. Great deal for these. They also have, bam, custom koozies. You're looking on the YouTube channel, you can see the white one prominently displayed. They got lots of colors of koozies. We'll be handing them out at games. We handed them out the last one. Had a lot of you sickos out there grabbing some koozies. We'll have plenty more for you coming up this year, thanks to our guys at Chilsea. Shout out to my guy, Dennis Redding, a true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad. They've been partnering with us since last year, and they're back again this year to provide y'all koozies. Koozies and more, Chilsey.com, CHILLZEY.com. All right, let's get to these Bobcats. We're just going to talk about the realignment rumblings. There's not a whole lot going on this week as far as updated news. If there was going to be, it's Tuesday, if there was going to be a press conference this morning, it would be in about an hour and a half, but they're not having one because it is an idle week. So no update. We'll get an update on some of that other stuff, see who's recovering from any banged up injuries they may have received the first 3 weeks on this idle week. I imagine that's probably that's what coaches always say. Our number one goal on this off week is to get healthy. So I'm sure that's what they're focused on. Hopefully they're getting nice and healthy. But we are going to talk about realignment a little bit. Feels like we're always having to bring in an update. It's one of my favorite parts about college football is its ever-changing nature and how it is something that you do have to constantly stay on top of. I know I've talked to some people and they're like, gosh, that's got to be a real pain to cover. But if anything, it makes it exciting. It keeps it from staying stagnant. You got to stay on your toes because one domino falls in one conference and it's going to lead to some other stuff in some other conferences. There's going to be a ripple effect no matter who moves where. And there's likely going to be a ripple effect from what the Pac-12 announced last week, that they are adding 4 new teams: Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Colorado State. A lot of state schools, considering the only other 2 members are Washington State and Oregon State. They should just call it the State School Conference. That's not a knock. Hey, I graduated from a state school. I am doing a podcast about a state school, but I find that interesting that they all are states right now. So that moves them up to 6 teams. And now a lot of you already know this, but I'll give a little bit of background on what happened with the Pac-12 real quick, though. Half the Pac-12 went to the Big Ten. The other half went to the Big 12. I should say most of those left, because then they left the only 2 members in Oregon State and Washington State. And it felt like, okay, the Pac-12 is done. After that, they only have 2 members. Those 2 members are probably going to have to go to the Mountain West because they had a deal with the Mountain West Conference to play against their conference this season. Not necessarily a full-on member, but getting in the mix with their games. Well, now it turns out that those 2 teams are taking some Mountain West teams in the form of Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, and San Diego State. So now it's a bit of a comeback, a little bit of a zombie Pac-12, if you will. They've dug themselves out of their grave and they're around because they need to have 8 teams by July of 2025. I believe that's correct. I should have double checked that before this pod, but I'm pretty certain that's correct. Where they need to have 8 teams by July. Right now they're at 6, so they're going to add 2 more. The rumors are swirling, of course. I mean, everyone's wondering who are they going to add. It probably a few years ago would have felt really far-fetched to think Texas State could potentially be a member in the Pac-12, but now we see SMU's in the ACC and a whole bunch of funky stuff is going on with these conferences where the whole regional aspect of it is kind of an afterthought with how these deals are shaken out. So of course, Texas State, they get thrown into the mix into the rumor mill with a bunch of other teams. UTSA right down the road, UNT right up the road for in-state schools, Memphis, Tulane. There's a lot of schools that are on their potential radar. A lot of G5 schools, I should say, high-end G5 schools, but still G5 schools. And the Pac-12 was a power conference. They were one of the Power Five conferences. Now we say P4 instead of P5 this year because of what happened to the Pac-12. And I don't think this move necessarily makes them a power conference again. We'll see what their TV money deal is going to shake out to be. The real difference in these TV deal monies is these schools and these power conferences make anywhere from 30 to 50 to 60 million dollars a year just for showing up for their games being shown on ESPN and the TV deal. It's just here's a big fat check for you. Where schools like Texas State and the Sun Belt make 7 million a year. So that's a very drastic difference. And I don't think what the Pac-12 is doing now, it doesn't seem like they are on the trajectory of becoming a power conference again. It's more like there's going to be more of the smaller conferences. I don't want to say smaller because they're not necessarily smaller, but group of five conferences without as many resources, because that's really what it comes down to. When we say smaller, it's smaller resources. Because these schools, a lot of them are the same size, but it's that resource pool that really is the divide, the competitive divide in everything: facilities, talent on the field, coaching staff, everything around it. It's the financial side of it is the true difference. It's not really talent versus talent as much as that aspect of it, because that money gets you the big talent. You can either attract them, or nowadays with NIL, you can just pay them. So Texas State, their name is being thrown into the mix, especially when it comes to pairing with UTSA. Could go hand in hand into the Pac-12, give the Pac-12 a stronghold in the state of Texas, at least in this area. That's what a lot of people are thinking about, and that's what they're considering. Now, I want to say right off the bat, I don't have any sources on any of this. This is one where I've tried. I've flipped over some rocks. They're not really talking, which is it's a good sign, especially for Texas State, that it's a time. Of course, as a journalist, I want everybody to talk to me. I want to get all the information. I want to be the one to put it out there. But as a Texas State grad and as somebody who roots for this team, it is reassuring when you don't see a lot of like leaks and things like that, and just information. Well, here's what I heard. It shows that everybody believes in the mission that's going on inside those walls. So that's okay with me. But it's not going to stop me from speculating. That's what we do here. But so with the Pac-12 and all these talks, it's a nice idea. Some of you are thinking about the Pac-12 from the past, maybe, and what it was. It would potentially increase the profile of both programs if they are offered. I just don't think it's likely. I don't think it's likely for either team. And I don't think that's a knock on UTSA or Texas State. It's just it doesn't seem it doesn't seem like either one has put up enough of a resume to be the most tantalizing G5 prospect out there. Yes, UTSA has done some terrific things over the last 5 years, but they're still a relatively young program. Texas State has turned it around recently, but there was a lot of dark times before that. So I could see them considering some other programs that have been around for a while. And again, that's not a knock on either one. It's just whenever I hear Memphis and Tulane, that one tends to make a little more sense to me, especially if they're looking at markets and what markets they can grab. Yes, they could get Texas State and UTSA in this whole little corridor between San Antonio and Austin. They could have a good, strong foothold in that. But if you look at Memphis and Tulane's in New Orleans. That's a pretty big market, and Memphis is in Memphis, which is a pretty big market itself. So that's why I could see those two teams being targeted out of the American Athletic Conference. Especially when you hear some stuff about the American Athletic Conference is doing some reshuffling. It means that they are potentially anticipating that some of their teams are going to get poached. Now, just because, and I should also add, this is what Bruce Feldman is also reporting. I forgot I put that right here in my notes. I've been talking off notes, but yeah, Bruce Feldman even reported on Fox Sports that Tulane and Memphis are being targeted by the Pac-12. And Bruce Feldman, I know Twitter has kind of muddied the playing field as far as what is true and what's not, as far as like what you see out there. Bruce Feldman is pretty good. He's really tapped in. That is somebody that he says something and I perk up and I listen for sure. But if that happens, that'll create an opening in the American Athletic Conference, which currently has 14 teams. Those two leave, that leaves them at 12. Seems like 12 isn't a good number for teams anymore for conferences. They want to be bigger than that. I mean, the Sun Belt is 14 right now. You have some of these other power conferences that are up to 16, 17 teams. Um, so I imagine they're going to want to expand if that were to happen. And if that were to happen, this is where realignment, the ripple for realignment, could affect Texas State. If they're trying to add some teams and the American Athletic Conference is looking at Texas State, it could be a good prospect for the Bobcats. I mean, the right off the bat, I think selfishly when I think about that move, because it'll be a parallel move financially. It's about the same on the TV money deal, no matter which conference. But then you get to play UNT, Rice, and UTSA. That's four in-state rivals in this conference. Would be pretty great. Would be pretty fun. That'd be a lot of fun to have a hate week against UNT, have the rivalry with UTSA being in conference rivalry. So that one excites me a little more than the Pac-12. That prospect, if the Pac-12 does take Memphis and Tulane and it opens up some spots in the AAC, that there could be some potential there. Now I'm going to say I said it earlier. It's a parallel move financially, so that might take it off the table. There's going to be exit fees from the Sun Belt, I would imagine, if they were to do that. So it might put them in a hole. So, from that perspective, it's not one that increases their finances right away. It is one that does create some of these rivalries, and I've said it before, being in the Sun Belt, the only Texas team, the furthest team out west in the Sun Belt, almost on an island. There might be some potential there. That being said, the Sun Belt is a great conference. It's, in my opinion, the best G5 conference right now. So I don't know why you would necessarily want to leave that just for some in-state rivals. That's me being selfish, where it's like, oh yeah, okay, UNT, Rice, that would be a lot of fun. But they're in a pretty good spot, and that would almost be a parallel move financially. But those rivalries, that would be a lot of fun. That's the one thing that I can think of. Why I would really really like that move to the American Athletic Conference. Um, but that being said, if they were to add two teams, it would be Tech State, and then who else would they add when they'd have to think about that. But all of this is all it's all hypothetical. It's all what ifs. This could be, none of it is solid. Just want to put that out there, make sure everyone is clear. We are pontificating. I'm not giving a full on report of what's going on, but there is potential for change. So stay out there. You got to keep your head on a swivel. Texas State college football landscape out there. You never know. Something might happen for these Bobcats. Something might shake out where they are moving. But yeah, on as far as anything solid, concrete right now, I haven't heard anything. I don't know what the inner workings are with that, what's going on. I will say it is interesting when you reach out and you don't get a response, because a lot of times in these you'll reach out and you'll get a response and it's like, hey, no, there's nothing to it. Don't even worry about it. Keep going about your day. But when you get no response, it's like, oh, is something going on? Is something going on? We'll find out. We'll see. We'll see what they're doing behind closed doors. Right now, it's all speculation. But if something goes down, we'll be back. We'll jump on and we'll do it. We'll stay frisky, stay salty. We'll be ready this idle week. No worries about that. But let's get to Mike Barker. Awesome interview. I think you're really going to enjoy that. Talks about his origin story, about how he got to doing this whole deal. His goal of 100 games this year. It's going to be the most he's ever done. 100 games, 100 stadiums. It's great. Really, really one of my my favorite characters out there in college football. I think he's really, there's a handful of people that do it, but I feel like they don't do it like him. They're not as dedicated as Mike. They are not as he's a genuine guy, He really is. He's the wholesome content, not overly wholesome, not like corny, but just wholesome stuff. It's you talk with him and you're like, yeah, man, this is somebody who truly cares about this. It's a passion project. So great to talk with him. I hope you'll enjoy that. Lots of great stuff to say about Texas State. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/win-now-or-get-bent. Check out our merch site, wnogb.com. I'm wearing the Win Now or Get Bent Mad Cat shirt right there. You can get that one. Lots of other great merch on there. Our YouTube channel, if you're not watching already, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. Twitter @Win Now or Get Bent. Instagram @WNOGB. Thank you to First Lockhart National Bank, McNabb, TGC LLC, Chilsey, our great producer, the wizard Zachary Webb. My guy was fighting illness. He's gonna have that a recap for you. You may not love the end score, but you'll love the highlights. He caught some great touchdowns, so look out for that recap. That should be coming out either today or tomorrow, sometime soon. It's an idle week. We're not on a firm schedule. Shout out to my guy Reese Largent, our great intern. Shout out to Reese. Y'all give my guy a follow. He's gonna be bringing the juice coming up. Stay tuned for Reese. And shout out to you sickos. Thank you so much for always tuning in. It was a lot of fun at the last game to shake a lot of your hands. I want to do more of that at these games. So I hope to see a lot of you out there. Thanks for always supporting the pod and tuning in and keeping this thing afloat. But all right, everybody, Mike Barker, college football campus tours coming up. Win now or get bent. I am joined by a very special guest on this episode of Win Now or Get Bent. We have Mike Barker of College Football Campus Tours. He was just at UFCU Stadium for that Thursday night game against Arizona State, one of the many stadiums he's going to see this season. Mike, how many stadiums this year? How many are on the slate?
100. That's the goal. So last year we did 90. There's an extra week of the regular season, and we got the 12-team playoff to push things out. So I don't know which games they are, but I have a plan for exactly 100 college football games this year.
How about that? 100 stadiums. That's incredible. What a journey. It's got to be a ton of fun. One of them was UFCU Stadium. You've been here before though. You've been in San Marcos before because when I ran into you at the game, you were saying it was like 2018 was the last time you were around, right? So you've been familiar with the Bobcats.
Yeah, so 2018, I went to a game on a Saturday. You guys played Louisiana, and that was, I believe, like Lewis, Louisiana. So they were a good high-powered offense team. And then 2020, I went to the SMU game, and it was bittersweet because on one hand, you're going to see a big matchup, in-state rivalry. But on the other hand, the COVID restricted your movements in the stadium. So we only could sit under the home side press box. And, from my account, that I like to travel and go every corner of a stadium. And so I was kind of on restriction at that game. So last year I got invited to come to a game, but I told them that I wanted to wait until the stadium was done a little bit more. Me and you DM'd about the status of it. And so this game on Thursday, I know everything was not done in the stadium, but it looked good and it was hard. It was impossible to pass up a home game against a P5 or P4. So it was time to cash in that chip.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to make it out for that one. Even though it didn't work out in the Bobcats' favor, that was still an incredible game. That was a really good one. And they did some things for that game, knowing it was going to be on the national spotlight on ESPN, where there was these like foam pads that were covering up those pillars behind
Right.
that one end zone that where there's no seats. They took those down. That looked a lot better on TV, but they're still definitely working on that weight room and still a lot of construction they're doing. Before I get into your take on UFCU Stadium and how it was, the atmosphere, all of that, I definitely want to know if you found an obstructed view. I kind of want to give people some context about what you do with college football campus tours. We said it a little bit with you're going to 100 stadiums, but kind of give us some origin story background. Like, how did this start? Why is this something you're so passionate about, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, so in 2017, I started traveling the country, going to games. My dad played college football. He played 1 year a linebacker at BYU, and then he transferred to school in California, University of Pacific. They don't have football anymore. They dropped the program in the 90s. They still play basketball in the West Coast Conference, but college football has always been a part of my life. And um, in 2017, I took a trip to Colorado, stayed at a haunted hotel called the Stanley. It's where Stephen King stayed to inspire writing the book The Shining, which became a movie. On the way there, it's about a 2.5 hour drive to Lake Estes from the Denver airport. I stopped at Boulder at Colorado. I stopped at Fort Collins at Colorado State, and I just enjoyed going around the campus, checking out the stadiums. Canvas Stadium was being built at the time on campus at Colorado State. And rather than spend 2 days at that hotel, I cut my trip short. And the second day, I went to Laramie to Wyoming, and I went to Colorado Springs to Air Force. And I just enjoyed it. It became something I wanted to do more. That summer, I took 3 weeks off my job and flew to Miami and visited 99 schools. And that fall, started going to games, went to 13 in 2017, 30 in 2018, 50 in 2019. And then by the end of 2021, accomplished my goal of seeing a game at all the FBS stadiums. And since then, profiles grown on social media. And now, we're revisiting places that we've gone before, working on the FCS. I'm at 83 out of 129 there. And in the course of exploring stadiums, you come across these obstructed views, which are seats that are available, but are blocked by a press box, a light pole, a play clock. And people think it's funny. And it's also a way for me to advocate for the regular fan who you hope doesn't buy a seat thinking that it's going to be a great experience, and you show up and you can't see 70% of the field. So it's all those things intertwined on my account.
Yeah, it's a fascinating journey, especially you talking about the growth, about how the games you go to every year have just grown and grown and grown, and now you're at 100. This is a quite a goal. I mean, I can imagine is 100. You gotta have to max out at 1 year. Can you do more than 100? Do you have ambitious goals to try to get to maybe like all 135 or 136, however many FBS teams will be when you get to this goal? Do you have any goals like that in mind?
Well, last year, 90, I thought was the most that could be done. And they added an extra week of the regular season, and then the 12-team playoff pushed things out. And so last year, I did 69 games in the regular season. I have 76 on my schedule this season. That includes I did a Wednesday D2 game in Shorter, Georgia on week 2. On October 13th, there's a Sunday D3 game at Oberlin College at noon. And, there's the Bahamas Bowl and the Hawaii Bowl and all these things. And I'm always trying to go for 2 games on a Saturday. So week 1, I did a 1 o'clock game in Northern Arizona, and then a 7:30 game at Arizona State. So when MACtion comes in November and the Conference USA weeknight games come in October, you can do 6 games per week. So 6 times 4 is 24. 24 times 2 is 72 in the regular season. You find these little off calendar, out of whack days you win in a conference. That's where you get to 76. So I have exactly 100. I'm hoping that when bowl times get announced, there's a couple that maybe you can do 2-for-1s there. But right now, it's exactly 100. And I really don't see a way to do one more game unless the schedule changes. So 90 last year, then 100 this year. That would be a huge step up.
It would be, maybe when your profile grows a little more, you can get a helicopter or something. Like a college football campus tours, just zip you around so you can get to all those games quicker.
It's funny because the ACC put out a tweet. They said their commissioner was going to 6 games in week 1, and I went to 6 games in week 1. But his Saturday was the noon Georgia Clemson game at Atlanta Falcons Stadium, and then he was going to Virginia at 6 p.m. And the only way you can do that is do a private jet. So
Yeah.
I did the same thing, Northern Arizona, Arizona State, but I had to drive 95 miles an hour down the highway to get from Flagstaff to Tempe. So give me that plane, maybe I can accomplish a little bit more.
Yeah, you gotta take it easy. Don't go too fast to make this goal. But I mean, I'm glad you're able to get out there and get to these games.
Thank you.
How do you for how do you make it work logistically? Do you have sponsors? Is this all just like a labor of love out of your own pocket, or how are you able to do this?
Yeah, so it is, I'm self-funded. There's a lot of talk. I have conversations all the time with people, companies that I hope are going to eventually come through. But, I've been a real estate appraiser in California for a long time. And it provided two things. One is the more you work, the more money you can make. So I would always, between January and end of August, I would work like crazy and try to stack money, and then have money for the fall, and also be able to lower my workload because I was going to be traveling. The last couple of years, with the way real estate has been, I would say about 80% of appraisals are refinances, and interest rates are, people are locked in at like 3.25% for 30 years. And when a loan rep makes a call about 7.75, they get hung up on. So my volume has dropped a lot, which is not ideal, but it also has allowed me to pour a little bit more time into my account. And I started in 2000 when I hit my 130th stadium in 2021. I had 5,000 followers. Now we're up above 40, and there's opportunities that are popping up, and I hope some of them come through. And just by making appearances on podcasts or doing articles like this, you hope that, I call it Shark Tank, the TV show. The whole premise is you have a good idea and you need someone to see value in it. And my goal would be someone say, hey, we like what you're doing. How about you just mention our company while you're doing it, and we'll fund your travel. So until that happens, we're scraping, we're sleeping in cars and airports and doing, I call it the glamour life sarcastically, but cutting costs as much as we can to try to prolong this fun journey that I'm doing as long as possible.
I mean, if I was a shark, I'd take a bite. I
Need
would
it.
I'd
Thank
get
you.
behind it. Somebody will eventually. You
I hope
stay
so.
persistent like you've been doing. You keep at it. Someone's gonna recognize it. Recognize what a cool deal this is. I mean, I follow it. I've been following it even when it's not Texas State. That's why
Yeah.
when it ended up being Texas State, I get real excited. I'm like, oh man, it's like it feels like a show you watch coming into your real life. Like I saw you and it was like, oh man, it's like looking at a sitcom character or something. I was like, that's so, and I mean that in a really nice way.
No,
Like,
I get it. And
yeah,
that's what's cool, because, I'm a regular fan. I'm not trying to, be on game day or anything like that. And my connection is with people on social media. And honestly, I would not be doing this travel anymore if it wasn't for people like you or people that I meet at games. At the Texas State game in particular, a week one, I had gone to Arizona State. So there's people that I met that came to the game, and, I had a Texas State shirt on, and I'm posing for photos with Arizona State fans in the Texas State shirt, and they're telling me to go, forks up and all this. So it's wild, but I mean, I love it just to be, a regular guy going to games, and have so many connections and friendships and relationships. And, what I tell people is, all you got to do is meet in person for 5 minutes, and then you're cool, and you can, you cover the Sun Belt, and I'm going to some other games. Maybe in a year or two, we're going to run into each other at JMU and, have a beer and pick up where we left off. So that's what's cool about, traveling like this.
and I can tell even just from your content, but even more so from talking to you right now, how genuine it is for you and how much it is a passion project for you. And I hope it manifests itself into something more, but I know even if it doesn't, it seems like something you're getting a ton of fulfillment from. So my hat's off
Absolutely.
to you. I hope you keep doing this content a long, long time.
Thank you. Yeah, I never sought out for this to be like my way of making a living, and if that were to come to fruition, that's great. But, my goal is to see a game at all 262 Division I schools. I'm at 216 right now. I think it would probably be end of 2026. If you told me that I had a 10-year run, I was the only person in the world to go to all 262 Division I schools and made friends all across the country, and I had to be done. I mean, it would suck because I would want to keep doing it, but how could you say that, you could never regret, and that those are experiences that are irreplaceable? They're probably the best times of my life. So, I'm grateful whatever way it turns out.
262. You're gonna get there. I know it. I know it.
I
Well,
hope so. Well, that's the plan, but they keep adding ones. They keep adding, Mercyhurst and Rio Grande Valley, and I'm like, stop
mhm.
adding them. You're making it more difficult, but I'm gonna try.
Shout out to UTRGV,
Yes,
Rio Grande Valley. That whole coaching staff is basically either former Texas State coaches or former Texas State players. It's kind of interesting.
Coach
Uh,
Bush. Yeah, they're ramping
Coach
up. I've
Bush,
seen it
there you
online.
go.
Yeah.
See, steel trap. You got that steel trap. You just rattled off
I
Coach
got to make a
Bush's.
visit down there. We got to visit them soon. So
I hear it. I hear it's a underrated place down there, Rio Grande Valley.
it's
Well,
impossible to 2 for 1. It's all by itself down there. So I'm
right.
spending a Saturday there, and the next 24 months I will be down there for a game.
College football campus tours helicopter will get you there one day.
Thank
I
you.
know it. I know it.
I hope so.
One of those 262 stadiums was UFCU. We talked a little bit at the top of this to begin with, but you came to UFCU Stadium. It's undergoing a facelift, if you will, a little different from the last time you saw it. I need your full report. Tell me about the Bobcats home. How are you feeling about it? How does it look? What was your any obstructed view? Let's hear about it.
So there's no obstructed view. And people the people were talking about me making a t-shirt like our stadium does not have an obstructed view, like to certify stamp it. So there's the concrete and I'm bad with descriptions, but the other side of the opposite of the construction, there's that arch looking
Hmm.
concrete thing. There's a couple little inset parts there, but none of them where you would say this is an obstructed view. So it's a very clean stadium. In the off season, my Twitter account is 12 months, but we're only traveling games 5 months. So the other 7 months of the year, we're filling it with content. And one of the things that I love to do is progression of stadiums over the years. And I tweeted it out during the game, but I'd also done it during the summer. Bobcat Stadium, now UFCU, built in 1981, and it just was a little high school looking stadium with a track and a road bleacher and a home bleacher. I DM'd you over the offseason because I wanted to make sure that I had the attendance number right, but it's basically doubled in capacity. In the early 2010s, a major renovation turned it into the 30,000 seat stadium, put that prestigious, modern looking press box on there and changed the whole look of the stadium. From the outside, it looks awesome. And so, I've always had, in my time, it's looked like that traveling, and I've always had it in the top 3 or 4 stadiums in the Sun Belt. It's hard to beat the location at App State and Kid Brewer. The new South Alabama Stadium is very nice. Troy Stadium has undergone similar renovations, but Texas State, man, people sleep on it. And when I go to games on a weeknight, you don't know what kind of reaction. Two things are going to happen. You don't know what kind of crowd you're going to get, and you don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get on social media. And last year, I went to Georgia State at Georgia Southern rivalry game, and it was packed out, and it was great. And I went to App State, Coastal, that was packed out, and it's great. But you go other places, and there's no crowd. And this crowd on Thursday, the students, man, the students were incredible. They filled up UFCU Stadium over an hour before the game. The whole student section was packed, and it was hot. But as the game went on, everything got, the whole stadium filled up 21-7 early. Just that was a great place to be. And, again, I've been there for a game in 2018, which was against Louisiana, not a sold out crowd, the COVID game on restriction. This was one where I cashed in that chip. I got to see the peak atmosphere, and it was a great environment. And, the response on social media, you could see all the likes and the retweets of all my tweets. It blew up. It was awesome.
It's great to hear. You're not being nice just because you're on a Tech State podcast, right?
No.
This is all genuine.
Well, I mean, Texas, I live in California and we don't have much college football culture. And when you go to Texas and you see, there's 10, 11, 12 FBS schools out there and, the investment in high school stadiums, we're jealous. I mean, we're jealous of what you guys have there. And I think that, I saw GJ Kinney, 2022, the FCS playoff game against Sac State, 66-63, the highest scoring game in FCS history. Last season, I was at Waco when Texas State beat up Baylor and won that game. So I've been tracking the trajectory of the program. And again, cashing in that chip going to the game on Thursday is not blowing smoke, because what I'm trying to do is show people and they can make the decision for themselves. When I take photos of the stadium and I say, here's what it looks like. If I take photos and say, here's the crowd, here's what it looked like. I don't say, hey, you have to like this or you have to retweet it. The reactions are organic, and you can just see by the activity on social media. I think a lot of people shared the same view.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear the outside perspective of a lot of those things, because you never know if you just kind of get lost being in it. And then to hear that from you, it's like, wow, that's nice. It's nice to hear that about Texas State, the growth and the trajectory of it all. There's a long way to go, but it's headed in the right direction, that's for sure.
Well, I like looking and seeing the 1981 and 1982 championship banners on there. And so, Texas State is not a favorite to be the college football playoff champion. But that being said, when you see those banners out there, you know that the school has reached those heights at one point, and now we have the spot for the the G5 school in the college football playoff. There's a lot of publications who have picked Texas State to be a possible contender for that. So you never know what happens. But that's the kind of thing where you go into a stadium or you track a program's history and you say, oh, they have won national championships. And, you never know. Nobody thought Clemson would be, winning multiple national championships. There's a lot of teams that pop up and you're like, wow. So who knows? The sky's the limit for everybody.
Absolutely. Very well said. Well, Mike, this was awesome. I really appreciate you jumping on and talking about your time checking out UFCU Stadium. But tell us, what do you have coming up? Do you have anything great to plug that you're working on? Just let the people know what you're doing.
Yeah, so this week we're going Thursday, App State, Friday, Illinois, Nebraska, two top 25 teams. And then I mentioned FCS goal. Right now I have two FCS schools, Lehigh and Bucknell on the East Coast. And, we'll try to keep it going for there. But the only thing I could plug is I have a podcast. It's called Stadium Heads. It's kind of like Sneaker Heads, where we're just talking about college football stadiums. We're going to film it tonight at 8 p.m. and which is Monday, and we're going to show all the photos from my travels. So we're going to put all the photos from the Texas State game, and much like I described my experience with you at Texas State, we're going to do the same thing tonight at 8 p.m. And we're at the end of this week, I'll be at 20 games, which is 20% of the way to 100. And it seems like we just started the year, but we're already 20% down. So other than that, I love the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt, I've gone to so many schools games because you guys played those weeknight Fun Belt games. And so, if you're a Texas State fan and I happen to be at one of the games and you travel to the games, reach out to me. I'd love to talk, have a beer, sit with you at the game. And, and I will definitely be following the progress of Bobcat football for the rest of the year.
Awesome. Stadium Heads. I'm going to go subscribe right as soon as we're done. I'm going to go. So you're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify.
It's at Stadium or youtube.com at Stadium Heads SGPN, which is a sports gambling podcast network. I will work with those guys, but it's the link in my Twitter profile. If you just go to my page, the link, you can subscribe.
Fantastic. I'm going to get in there and subscribe to that. Hey, one of the most genuine pieces of folklore in college football campus tours, Mike Barker. I can't thank you enough for jumping on, and we hope to see you in San Marcos again soon.
Absolutely. And thank you for flagging me down. We got an iconic picture together, and I appreciate it. And I will, keep following you in Texas State, and we'll see each other again, I'm sure.
That picture. So that you bring up one last point I got to ask. The hands in pocket picture. How'd that start? Did you just do it accidentally and it just kind of became a thing that you do?
So I used to watch and one basketball back in the day, and there was a guy named Hot Sauce, and he started taking photos with people, and he didn't know what to do, so he just kind of put his arms out next to him. And so I said, well, I can't copy Hot Sauce, so I put my hands in my pocket. And now it's funny, like, we did it together with the photo. I'll go places and be like, I go put my arm around him, or I go like this or whatever. No, put your hands in your pocket. So it's cool. I did have a woman on Instagram one time. She says, can you stop putting your hands in your pocket? And I was like, no, we're not going to talk anymore. I can't do that. So, but that's the origins of it. I just wanted to I saw Hot Sauce and I was like, I can't copy him. I'll do something else. And that's how we did the hands in the pocket.
That's a way better origin story than I anticipated. That's great.
Yeah,
and one mixtape. I was all about it. Cadillac and the Professor. That's a time. I can tell we're from the same.
Lou and all those guys. I saw them in San Diego Sports Arena like 15 years ago. Escalade, Mark Jackson's brother, all those guys. Those
Escalade,
main event, all those guys. Yeah.
I called them Cadillac. It's Escalade. You're right.
Escalade. Yeah. That was a phenomenon for a while because it was like street ball Harlem Globetrotters. It was very cool. So that's where it started.
I could tell we're the same age group with that. We just dated ourselves a little bit. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Mike, thanks again. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.